3 feet tall, stone tools in hand, hunting creatures twice their size on an island lost to time. This was real. This happened. And for reasons we still don't fully understand, they vanished, leaving behind only bones, tools, and questions that have shaken everything we thought we knew about human evolution. Flores Island, Indonesia, a dense humid jungle pressing in from every direction, heavy with the smell of wet earth and rotting vegetation. The air thick, alive with sound, insects, birds, something larger moving through the undergrowth, and walking through all of it, a creature that is unmistakably human, yet unlike any human you've ever pictured. Roughly 3 feet tall, brain the size of a grapefruit, eyes sharp, movements deliberate. This is Homo Floresiensis, and they are hunting. Scientists would later nickname them the hobbits, but there was nothing fictional about them. They were real. They were intelligent, and they shared this island with some of the most bizarre megafauna that ever walked the earth. Giant storks taller than a man, Komodo dragons, which still exist today, as if the island preserved one relic of that ancient nightmare, massive rats the size of dogs, and perhaps most extraordinary of all, pygmy elephants, a dwarf species called stegodon, scaled down by island evolution into something almost surreal. And the hobbits hunted them. We'll get to exactly how that hunt looked in a moment, because the answer is stranger and more impressive than you're expecting. First, understand how Homo Floresiensis even came to exist. The leading theory is called island dwarfism, when a large-bodied species gets isolated on an island with limited food and no major predators. Evolution doesn't favor size anymore. It favors efficiency. Over tens of thousands of generations, bodies shrink, resources stretch. The animal that was once enormous becomes something compact, something that needs less to survive. Stegodon, the dwarf elephant, is the most dramatic example, but Homo floresiensis may have undergone the same process, likely descending from Homo erectus, an earlier human species that somehow made it to Flores hundreds of thousands of years ago. And here's where it gets deeply strange. Flores is not an easy island to reach. Even during ice ages, when sea levels dropped significantly, there was no land bridge connecting Flores to the Asian mainland. Which means whoever arrived there, the ancestors of the hobbits, crossed open ocean. Deliberately or by accident, we don't know. But they got there. And once they did, evolution took over and sculpted something entirely new. By 100,000 years ago, possibly much earlier, Homo floresiensis was established on Flores. Small-bodied, small-brained, but don't let that fool you. Brain size is not the only measure of intelligence, and what these creatures did with their minds is remarkable. They made stone tools, not crude accidental flakes, refined intentional tools. Researchers found hundreds of them at the primary discovery site, a cave called Liangbua. The tools show a level of craft that suggests planning, practice, and knowledge passed from one generation to the next. These were not animals reacting to their environment, they were shaping it. There is also strong evidence they controlled fire. Charred bones and burnt plant material found alongside their remains suggest hearth use, warmth, cooked food, maybe light against the dark. Picture a small fire burning inside Liangbua cave, casting orange shadows across the low ceiling. A group of these small figures crouched around it, silent, processing the day's kill. And that kill, that's the detail that genuinely staggers researchers. Stone tools found with cut marks on stegodon bones. A 3-foot tall hominin coordinating to bring down an animal exponentially heavier and larger than itself. No large body mass, no brute strength advantage, just intelligence, cooperation, and patience. They would have needed to understand the animal's behavior, its weaknesses, how to drive it or trap it, how to use the landscape itself as a weapon. This wasn't accident. This was strategy. Now, here is the open loop I mentioned earlier. The thing about Homo Floresiensis that researchers are still actively debating, the detail that makes their story even more unsettling. When modern humans, Homo sapiens, began expanding across Southeast Asia roughly 50,000 years ago, the hobbits disappeared from the fossil record almost simultaneously. Coincidence? Possibly, but possibly not. We'll return to that. For now, think about the timeline. Homo Floresiensis survived on Flores for potentially 700,000 years. 700,000 years of adaptation, survival, culture, and continuity on a single island. For context, modern human civilization, cities, writing, agriculture, is roughly 10,000 years old. These creatures endured 70 times that span. And then, within what is geologically a blink, they were gone. The leading extinction theories pull in different directions. Climate change and volcanic activity are serious candidates. Flores sits in one of the most geologically volatile regions on Earth. Ash layers in the fossil record suggest major eruptions that could have devastated local ecosystems, collapsing the food chain that the hobbits depended on. Stegodon itself went extinct around the same time. Without their primary prey, a small, isolated population could unravel fast. But then there's the arrival of Homo sapiens. Modern humans were expanding aggressively across this region, carrying more advanced tools, larger social networks, and a history of displacing or absorbing every other hominin species they encountered. Neanderthals, Denisovans, gone. Every archaic human species that crossed paths with Homo sapiens eventually vanished. The pattern is undeniable, even if the precise mechanism, violence, competition, disease, remains unknown. What makes Homo Floresiensis different from nearly every other extinct human species is how recent they were. 50,000 years ago is not deep prehistory, it is practically yesterday. There are cave paintings in Europe older than the Hobbit's extinction. There are fully anatomically modern humans who were alive at the same time these small hunters were tracking dwarf elephants through the Flores jungle. We did not miss them by millions of years. We may have missed them, or met them, by the thinnest margin imaginable. Local folklore on Flores includes stories of small, cave-dwelling people called the Ebugogo, described as short, hairy, and able to repeat words spoken to them. Some researchers believe these legends are cultural echoes, memories passed down through generations of actual encounters with Homo Floresiensis, stories preserved in story because the people who told them once saw something real. The hobbits of Flores were not myth. They were not a primitive mistake of evolution. They were a fully realized species, hunting, surviving, and thriving on a forgotten island at the edge of the ancient world, and whether they were wiped out by fire, by ash, by hunger, or by us, they are gone now. Only the bones remain, and the tools, and maybe, in the oldest stories of the people who still live on that island, something else. A memory of the ones who came before.